Guys, this is a tutorial video for how to write a daily treatment note and submit charges through PT Practice Pro. In order to do those things, you want to start in your dashboard, which is the screen that we're in right here. If for some reason when you log in a different screen pops up, how to get there is you click Home and then you click on Dashboard. I am going to switch my date, and it's important to select the date for which you want to write the treatment note first. I have a test patient lined up for this date, so I'm going to click on that, and then you're going to click on My Appointments. And it'll pull up all the appointments you have for that day. Just kind of think about it. And here we go. Here's my test patient. So there's 3 icons here which are useful for what we want to work on today. Follow-ups we don't really use in this clinic too much, but you can write your daily treatment note through either the SOAP status or through the flow sheet, depending on how you want to write your note and what kind of information you need. I'll show you how to use both ways because they are a little different. And then charges you can submit through either here, so you don't have to click through here, but if for some reason you want to just submit charges, you can click this icon here. But I'm going to start here with flow sheet because I want to start here with how we do a daily treatment note. So since this is a test patient that has not been worked with before, it's going to look a little bit different than what it will when you have a patient that you've seen before, because here we don't have anything listed. And so first we need to start by clicking on that icon. Let me show you what that was again. So this icon is create a new treatment plan, because you need a treatment plan to use this grid on this left-hand side. This is useful if you have different activities or exercises that you know you're going to be using frequently throughout different treatment sessions, and it'll just save you some typing because, as I'll show you, it'll just pull up a list of treatments and then you can just check mark which ones you did. So it takes a little bit of time to set up, but generally it should end up saving you some time as you go along. So I'm going to click New Treatment Plan. This one I'm just going to call Test. As you can see, we do already have some templates that are available. As you go along, you can create templates that you can use with multiple patients if you find yourself using similar exercises with similar patients. For now, we're just going to do this test one. We're going to add the selected treatment plan. And I'm going to show you on the left-hand side, these icons have changed now that we're in a treatment plan, and I want to show you what these mean. So this one is to create a new treatment plan. If you've made a whole one here and you don't like it and you want to start a new one, which we rarely do in the clinic, this is really pretty much, you're only going to use this the first time you work with the patient. This save icon is an important one because basically, you need to click on this anytime you make changes here before you do something different. For example, if you want to sign the note, you definitely need to save before you do it, because signing isn't going to save what you have changed here. You need to save it first. I'll point out that there's a save icon on this side, which only saves the material you've worked on over here. So you need to make sure that you're clicking on the correct one. Then down here, this is what you're going to click on if you want to save this treatment plan as a template, which will allow you to use it with different patients. So if this is, our test patient A, and then test patient B, you eval next week, and they present very similarly, and you want to work on same things with them, you can pull this treatment plan forward and use it with them, and that'll just save you a little bit of work with entering new exercises. This X, be careful with this one because this will delete the entire treatment plan, which you probably won't use too much. Maybe just, the first time you use this as you're experimenting, if you want to start over, if you don't like the exercises that you put in or what have you. The rest of the icons probably aren't going to use too much. Follow-ups we don't really use in this clinic. Show hide notes column. What that's going to do, this treatment notes column will pull up with an empty text box that you can write just like notes about how that particular exercise went. And so this will allow you to just get rid of that column. I find that I just keep this column here because I tend to use it with most patients, but that's kind of personal preference. This one you can check all treatments that were selected last appointment. So if this treatment session is very similar to last week's, this will check off all the items that you've done before, which can be helpful if you have 30 exercises and you only did 10 of them. Rather than having to sift through them all again, this will kind of do some of that work for you. That one you probably won't use too much because it's probably just going to be you signing it. And then the only other one that we tend to use very much in this clinic would be this icon here. So let me show you how to add an exercise first, and then this icon will make a little bit more sense. So in order to add something into this area here, you're going to use this top section here. So the first thing you have to do is select category, which allows you to select basically what kind of thing you're doing. As a PT, I tend to use therapeutic exercise for most everything, and maybe I'll have a section for manual therapy, depending on the patient. But as you can see, we have a whole list of different types of things you could work on. So for example, I'll pick CTS OT treatments, and then a whole drop-down list of things that people have already entered will show up here. So for example, let's say we want to work on social skills. Then obviously most of these parameters you're probably not going to end up using. You don't have to add the exact time you worked on every single thing here. So you don't have to worry about that one. And then once you've put in everything that you want, you can just go ahead and click add, and it'll show up down here. Apologize for my internet speed. And if you want to change things as you go along, you can certainly add it as you go here. So you certainly don't have to add it up here. You can add it down here later, and it probably will make more sense to do it here, since this you only really use the first time you add it, and you'll use this part of it every time going forward. Now there's a couple things here. You can hide the selected treatment. I really don't ever use that one. I think that just makes it so that it's not visible. And then this one, you can delete this particular treatment item from this treatment plan. Now you can only use this, I believe they said when we were training before, in the very first time that you're creating the template. Like once you've signed the note and it's written in here, you really can't delete it. Or it might be once you've checked it off as done and then signed it, then you can't delete it. Which really is not the end of the world if you have something in here that you don't want, because in order for this to actually show up on your signed note, it has to be checked in the done column. So if there's something on there that you never really use, you can try deleting it, and if it won't let you do it, then it'll just be on your list. It'll be, more cosmetic of an issue, but it won't show up on your note as long as you don't have it checked under this done column. Okay, so let me show you what this icon means now that we know how to enter an exercise on here. So what this will do is change this, instead of being a drop-down menu, to being a text box, so that you can type whatever you want if something that you want to do is not already on that list. So what this is probably saying, and we'll see if it works or not, is it's prompting me that I haven't clicked the save icon recently. And so I've added this treatment in, and to be honest, sometimes it's spotty. Sometimes it does save anyway, and sometimes it doesn't. So if all the changes I've made recently, I don't worry about. If I say, you know what, I don't really care about those, I'm going to leave the page, it probably will not keep the changes that you made because you haven't saved it. If you do want to go ahead and save it, you click that stay on page, then you click your save again. It'll say that you've saved it, which I guess I did before probably. And then we can go ahead and do whatever it is we're doing. I think we were going to change this, so we'll click this again, and it should just go ahead and do it since I've saved it recently. Again, I apologize for my internet speed here. So now we have a dialog box where we can just type whatever we want to do. So test treatment, let's say I want to do test treatment. Then we can just go ahead and add it, and it'll show up in that same area there. It is important to note that I believe once you have typed something in the way that we just did, it should be entered into the system, so that when you click this box here, it'll switch it back to that drop-down menu, and I think it now becomes available for anyone to use in this drop-down. So let's see if it saved my test treatment. Yep. So just be aware. I think there's a few other tests that people have entered in there, so just know that it will show up. Again, it's not the end of the world if you have something in there that you're not going to use all the time, because you'll just scroll past it and use something else, but just be careful that you're not just typing whatever into there. So sorry that I put my test treatment in there. Okay, so that's this side. You can have more than one of these on your flow sheet at a time. So you can have an OT treatment, and then you can also have therapeutic exercise, and it'll just kind of separate them in your flow sheet. Well, it usually does. I'm not sure why it doesn't. Then there's also this goals tab. And this is really kind of depends on which discipline you're in and depends on, you know, personal preference. I don't really use that goals tab. You'll have to add this in yourself. This might make more sense for speech therapists to work on. I know you tend to have more like your sessions are very much structured around specific goals. This one, it doesn't have any. Probably you need to select a category. And so there's that one option there. And then you can also use this icon again to change it into a text box. So you can use it that way, basically. So that's this side. That's the flow sheet side. And then you'll see on the right-hand side where these text boxes are is where you can actually type your SOAP note. So with some patients, it depends. I, even myself, use this for some patients, and then I just use this side for other patients. A really nice feature with this side is this copy previous notes, which I found to be very helpful with some patients, that I'll list what we worked on under objective, and then when I press copy previous notes, it'll pull all of it forward, and then I can add to it or delete from it, but it just saves me a little bit of work and a little bit of typing. I won't click on that here since I haven't worked with this test patient before through PT Practice Pro, so it won't have anything there. Again, I want to point out that there's a save icon here, which saves items that have been worked on this side. So there's two here. And don't be confused with this sign. Signing saves what has been recently saved. Like, so if you type something and then you save it, and then you type something more and then you sign it, that last piece that you worked on before you saved it, or I'm sorry, after you saved it, won't be reflected when you sign it. So you have to save both of these before you sign, basically. So these boxes are pretty small. You can click on this little triangle here, and it'll allow you to make these boxes bigger or wider, which will give you a little bit, you know, more room to work with there. Even if they're small, you can, you know, it'll create a space where you can scroll up and down. So it's not that you're going to run out of space. It's really just more visually so you can see everything you're working on. So there's that feature. So I'm just going to type some stuff in here so you'll see what it looks like when you go to print your notes, which you can do in this clinic. You can give your notes to parents in a few ways. You can first ask if they want a daily note, because not every parent wants a copy of every single daily note. When you've saved it, sorry, make sure it's saved here. You can also email it to them, and it's a little confusing. You actually have to click on print first, and then it'll, you know, depending on what kind of system you're working on and what computer you're using, it'll look a little bit different from there. So if you actually, and this is where it gets a little confusing, if you click print notes, I don't think this is going to show up because we're in our flow sheet right now. It might, sometimes it will just pull up the SOAP note part of it and it won't print the flow sheets. So I'm going to click print flow sheets. And this is what the printout is going to look like. And now, if you notice, my flow sheet isn't here. And that's because I haven't clicked on any of these as having been done that session. So if I want to just say that I worked on these two things and I didn't work on this top one here, I have to save it again. I'm going to close out of this one. And now I'll sign it. and then I'll click print flow sheet. It should have my flow sheet and my SOAP note included on this. So there it is. And it's got my therapeutic exercise separated from my OT treatments. Sometimes this page is going to look a little bit different. Like this one, for some reason, I can't tell you why it's not separating. If you remember, I had two different categories selected for the type of activities we were working on. One of them was the OT treatments and one of them was therapeutic exercise. So yeah, if something is not showing up kind of the way that you like it, see what it looks like when you print it, because that's what's going to be, that's what it's going to look like when you give it to the parent. And then from here, I won't show you the rest because I'm sure it's different from one computer to the next. But if you want to email it, you usually have to click this print report and then it'll pull up the PDF and then you save it to your computer and then you email it from there. Or if you just want to print it and give a hard copy to the parent, you would also click print, and then from the PDF you would click print from there. So unfortunately you have to click print a few times to actually get it to do what you want. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm going to show you here is the charges. So you can submit your charges from this screen as well. You'll just click the add charges. And I'm not sure what kind of insurance our fake patient has here, but it'll usually have a list of different codes that you can select from. There we go. So as a physical therapist, therapeutic exercise is the unit that I am usually charging for. And so it'll automatically pull up, it'll automatically put 15 minutes for each one unit. So if you did 1 unit of therapeutic exercise and maybe, let's say that we did 2 and then we did 1 unit of manual therapy, you'll just select with those arrows there, scroll back up to the top, and then you'll click add selected fees. Obviously there's a whole long list of different things that could be submitted. Again, I'm sorry it's taken a little while. You can close out and it should show up here as having 3 units now from what I put in. Not sure why that didn't work. Let's try that again. It's possible that because this is a fake patient that they don't really have insurance and for some reason that's causing a problem. Let's see. Oh, so it did, I guess it just took a while for it to kick in. That doesn't usually happen. Usually it just shows up the first time. But this is good anyway, because if you submitted something incorrectly, you can just click this X and it should delete whatever it is that you put incorrectly in there. I'm not sure why that's not working right now, but you get the idea. And then another thing on this screen is this patient information tab. This can be kind of useful because it just has some basic information about the patients there. A lot of times these are not super accurate, and I would definitely, if it says like, oh, they don't have any authorized visits, check with the front desk first because they usually have the more accurate information. I found this most helpful with my very young patients. If I don't remember, are they still 4 months or are they 5 months now? Like that age pulls up, so that's kind of nice. And then it also tells you the document date. This document is dated June 15th because that's when this patient was scheduled for. So that's kind of handy too. Okay, so if you remember when we were back at the beginning, actually, I'm sorry. If you switch tabs over, but you're like, wait, I want to still work on this, go back to documentation, and that will show you all these icons here, which will allow you to work on stuff here. So I'm going to click unsign because I want us to continue to work on this note. You can also do that if you've made an error or you realize you want to type something else in something. You can click that unsign and then you can add it in again, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard because if you remember, and this date usually autofills with today's date, so you will probably need to switch back over if it's on a day other than the day that you're working on it. Go to my appointments again. And now you can also work on the note through SOAP status. Now this is really, I mainly use this tab if I'm working on a evaluation note or a progress note or a discharge note or something other than a daily SOAP note. But you technically can do it this way, so I'm going to show you in case you would like to. And if you don't use that left side of the screen from what I was showing you before with all the actual list of exercises, then so if you don't use that screen at all, that's when you might be more interested in using this one, just because there's a little bit more space, just like a little bit visually. It uses a better amount of the screen than just that right hand column when you're in the flow sheet. So as you can see, this is the same little notes that I put in when I was working on before. So it pulls up in this screen too, which can be a little bit confusing. And so it should pull up daily notes here. If for some reason it's on something else, just click daily notes. And then from your library, your daily note. Since I have already written on this, it's got this pulled up here. We can, just for the sake of showing you how to do this, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So we have these 4 subjective objective assessment plan. You can actually press this icon, which will expand all of these. So instead of having to go through individually and open them up, it'll just open them all up. I'm going to select all of them, and then you're going to click this little guy, which says Add Selections. And it's going to add all of them since I had all of them checked off. And then we have our text boxes. And again, you can open them up here so it's a little bit more space. So it's really personal preference and what kind of information you're needing to use. For if you want to use this screen or if you want to use the flow sheet screen. And you can also flip back and forth between those 2 screens using these icons. So we're in notes right now, but if I want to go to flow sheet, I'll just click that one and it'll bring me over here. And since I cleared out the SOAP note from before, it's cleared it out in here. So that's where those 2 screens are kind of connected. Another nice thing that I'll show you while we're in here is that there's this Patients Visits tab, which is another nice way to look at previous notes. Again, I haven't seen this test patient before, but if I had, there would be a list of all the dates that they had been seen and then what kind of notes they had. So whether it was a daily treatment note or an evaluation note, and you can click on those and it'll pull those up. So again, make sure that you sign when you're finished with writing your notes. Make sure you have everything checked off and everything saved. You don't need to submit your charges before you sign. The sign is really just for the note itself, and then you can add charges independently of that. So yeah, this sign feature is the same whether you're in the flow sheets screen or the notes screen. So that is how you write the notes, and then I'll show you the charges icon back in the dashboard again. So again, we have to select our date, and then you can go back to My Appointments. And then it's saying that I've submitted charges because you saw me enter charges in for this patient before. But before, there'd be a little red icon here saying that we're missing some. And then you click on that, and this brings you to a page which is just charges. So again, we have all these different charges here, which we can delete them here. Not sure why I didn't delete them before, but that's another option. If it's not working in that screen, you can move over to this screen. For some reason, it seems to be working better here. And then if you also want to add charges, you can do that here using this icon here, which is the same as it was in the flow sheet. It just is, looks a little bit different with the rest of it. So, and then the last thing I'll show you, going back to the dashboard, is these 3 items, which tells you if you are missing anything for any dates. So I'm guessing I shouldn't have any missing charges show up since I did submit charges for this patient already, which you saw. So it shouldn't have anything here. But if you were missing something, it would. And then missing SOAP notes, missing flow sheets, I'm thinking it should show up as missing something. because I didn't sign it, because I had signed it before and then I unsigned it. It's possible that it's not showing anything up here because the actual date today is June 10th, and it's showing that the scheduled date to see this patient is on the 15th. So since it hasn't passed yet, it's not saying that I'm missing anything. But generally, if it's, if I was looking at a patient that I saw yesterday, for example, and I didn't have a note for them, it would show up as having a missing flow sheet here, which is just kind of nice. On my appointments, you can click through every day and it'll show you on those 3 icons whether it's been submitted or not. So because it's got this little, you can see the yellow triangle there, that's showing that you're working on it still, and it'll have a green check mark once you've signed it saying that it's done. And so for any day, if you're like, I'm not sure if I remember if I finished those notes on that day, you can select the date and it'll pull it up here. Or you can just go to these without having to click through every single day, and it'll just show you what you're missing overall. So that's how you write a daily treatment note and submit your charges, and that's how you look and see if you're missing anything. Thanks.